So after doing the F4U-4 as a focal point for the performance series, I thought it might be nice to actually fly a match in it instead of just talking about the performance in test flights. And in staying on brand for me, this is a thoroughly normal, dare I say, mediocre match. I end with 3 frags, and it is a win. And for a relatively normal player, a 3 frag match is a good one. And really, any match you fly away from with a win is also pretty good. So there's undoubtedly opportunities that I missed. And one of the things that I do when I look at these for myself is I go back and I think about how I could have flown it differently. And of course, if you're somebody that's looking to improve and maybe you're also like me, you're not the best player, there may be some opportunities for you to spot and improve on here too. So I hope in that sense it's helpful. And maybe if you're a newer player, you even pick up something that you didn't know. I am using manual engine controls here because it's mandatory or virtually mandatory with a whole bunch of aircraft. The instructor may really hurt the turn performance of the Corsair, but the engine and the power production is unaffected. So while it doesn't necessarily accelerate quickly, the performance is pretty consistent across a variety of altitudes from low to high. And of course, the Corsair is fast. And really, that's what I need here to evade this Key 44. He came in with a couple of high 185s. I did expect for him to pitch up there, and he very nearly got rounds on me with that first burst. I knew he wouldn't be able to keep the nose on me after I made that initial evasion, but unfortunately now the I-185s are coming in, and you're going to find yourself in this position very often as a US prop pilot if you're flying low to mid BR, because there are a whole bunch of aircraft that if they choose to will always be above you. So diving and equalizing energy is probably the first thing you need to learn as a US prop pilot if you don't relish a lot of quick trips back to the hangar. And as a theme generally, to do that, you need altitude. So newer players, or I guess just people that are impatient, maybe trying to grind as quickly as they can, often make the mistake of flying straight in with US props. And again, for planes that do not accelerate or climb well, in many cases have questionable maneuvering energy retention, you're really at the mercy of people taking bad head-ons with you or ignoring you. Because what you need to equalize energy, what you need to reposition, generally comes from altitude that you can trade for speed or just outright speed. You should always have probably one of the two, but the problem is at low altitude, the energy that your opponents gain from out climbing you is not something that just your speed alone can account for in many cases. I did throw the picture-in-picture here from the in-game replay. You may have noticed that I take a lot of shots where it doesn't look like the cursor is where it should be. In some cases, I'm even shooting behind aircraft. I have some pretty significant issues with desync. I just thought it'd be interesting to show you what the server recorded for a given game versus what I'm seeing when I play it. And you can see some pretty significant rubber banding here for the Key 44. And you can see some differences in where I'm aimed and shooting in the client versus what the server is actually recording. So when you see some of my customarily atrocious aim, just know that it's not entirely me. In some cases, I've got a little bit of a help slash handicap. So that was the Key 44 from earlier, of course. And this match was against Russia and Japan. I guess the saving grace, if you want to think of it that way, is having the French on my side of the match. Typically, the folks that are flying the French tech tree tend to be on balance a little bit more skilled. And you can see that because they have some of the same props as the US tech tree, but if you compare the stats, the performance overall of US props in the French tech tree versus US props in the US tech tree, again, exact same aircraft, exact same performance, exact same BRs, you'll notice that the French props perform much better. And so I'm keeping enough altitude to trade for speed, but I'm headed towards their base, and I'm always intend to sort of check the forward airfield first, with the understanding that when you're this close to their airfield, if they did RTB, even very good climbing props can't just shoot off the airfield like a rocket. So you don't need quite as much. You need enough altitude to not get shot down by the AA if you decide to fly over the main airfield. But on balance, you don't have to be up at 6 kilometers to acquire targets close to their airfield. And depending on what your rip speed is and your dive speed, that may actually be disadvantageous because it'll give them a chance to equalize more effectively um, as they gain altitude and speed as they leave the airfield. And you have to lose a little bit of time and create that opportunity to come down. So that's a lot of talking about just things in general, right? Because with only 3 air-to-air victories in the whole match, there's not a lot of hot and heavy action to talk about. But the reality is, for a lot of people that are struggling with US props, I mean, the reality is you're not going to fly straight in, as we've already discussed. You're not going to be mixing it up in turn fights. I mean, not if you want to win matches. If you're one of the guys that was out in 2 minutes and you're on your third match by now, okay, so be it. If you're somebody that would like me, would like to get 3 victories in a match and end with a win, then US props are going to require that you be a little bit more deliberate. The last player on the enemy team here is a Yak-3, and in this fight, I actually have a little bit of a situational awareness failure here. For some reason, I think the ally that's in my vicinity is an F6F5, a Hellcat, and that is not what it is. So I play this a little bit differently, and unfortunately, my teammate goes down as a result because I expected some performance from him that his aircraft was not capable of. And the Yak-3 is a great aircraft. It's fast. It climbs well. But he did not climb. Certainly, he didn't climb optimally or maximally coming off his airfield, which is an interesting choice on his part because I was definitely spotted by his teammate when I maneuvered on him. And this fight could have been much tougher. Could have gone a lot differently had the Yak-3 climbed a little bit more aggressively. My outstanding accuracy on full display. And the Yak-3 is incredibly dangerous, so I gave it a lot of space before coming up and starting to set up my next attacking opportunity. And you can see I came through there with a big altitude advantage, sort of a classic boom and zoom run. He dodged below me. And this is the part where I make my, I guess, critical error. I would have flown this a lot differently. I was baiting him for my teammate because I assumed my teammate could actually pick him up there. No issues. And it's about this time that I realize, oh no, that's not in fact a Hellcat. Oh dear, what have I done? So now I'm actually being a little bit more aggressive because I'm trying to save my teammate at this point. I realize I've erred badly, and I'm feeling a little guilty about it, and unfortunately not fast enough to get back in there and make a difference. So after a couple of somewhat aggressive passes, I'm going to go back to being a little bit more deliberate here. And you can see a couple of sparks. At this point, I think I at least have enough damage into the Yak-3 that the fight is not quite as strenuous. I don't have to worry because he's not at his full capacity. And we're just doing a little bit of, if you're going to fly the Corsair, you really have to find excuses to use the flaps, because the flaps are where you get something approximating your proper turn rate, and they're quite good. And we've got a few more chunks off of the Yak 3. And it's death by 1,000 cuts or death by 1,050 cows. I didn't actually check the total ammo spent on this guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was close. The only good news for me is he's pretty gimped at this point. He just doesn't have much left, and we're able to get a fire and a severe, and low altitude fire and a severe on an aircraft that's obviously not flying so well. I'm happy to just let it burn. And that's it. So maybe you pick something up, but there it is. Completely normal Corsair gameplay that is not talking about, well, much, the instructor.